Okay, you guys, thank you so much for coming and just being at Health and Balance tonight. And I know a couple of you, I think everyone's been here before, huh? Yeah. Well, your friend has not been here before. First time. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about food allergies, both Dr. Bree and I. I'm Dr. Lisa Arthur, and this is Dr. Bree Simon. She's our acupuncturist, if you all haven't met her. Mondays is your day? Mm-hmm. Mondays in the morning. 8 to 12. 8 to 12. Yep. So if you guys need a great acupuncturist, insightful, you've been. That's great, Lori. Thank you for highly recommending her. I do too. She's amazing. Always helps out whenever I have an injury, a sickness, a need. She just helped. So when Gary Arthur got that really bad injury, you helped him a lot. He felt a lot better. Thank you for helping him out. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about allergies tonight with Dr. Bree and I. Does everybody in here, everybody seems somewhat to be interested in allergies, right? That's why you might be here. Okay. So that's what we're going to talk about. And Cassie made up this wonderful thing. So where do allergies and sensitivities come from? So we'll just kind of read through this and go through some of the things. So the immune system sees certain foods as harmful. Triggers a fast reaction like hives or swelling or breathing issues is another way that you know that you've got allergy issues. Sinuses that are swelling, stuff like that. Common triggers are nuts, shellfish, eggs, and dairy. Okay, so let's kind of, well, we can go through this because I think it talks a little bit later about where they come from. Food sensitivities are slower or less intense immune response. Sometimes people don't even know they have food sensitivities in their gut. Maybe they're just slightly constipated, maybe they have diarrhea, maybe there's different, maybe they just are a little bit bloaty or uncomfortable, and those are like the less intense immune responses that you can have in your gut if you have food sensitivities that are bothering your gut. Common triggers, gluten, lactose, and additives. Okay, at the bottom it says, genetics, gut health, diet, and environment play a role in the causes. Some of the, I was going to talk tonight a little bit quickly about some of those quick food hacks and hacks that you can do that you can immediately help your gut. And so some of the things that really hurt your gut are NSAIDs, non-steroidal anti-inflammatories, so like Advil and ibuprofen. So that is one of the biggest things that will really mess your gut up. And there's a lot of people that come in here and they've been in pain for a while and they've been taking NSAIDs, not really think, well, if I take a couple of Advil today and a couple tomorrow, for a couple of weeks it won't really hurt me, but it really does. It really messes up your gut. Pardon?
It will make it permanent if you've ever taken NSAIDs?
It can inflame your gut so much that then it starts to react to different things, and then you can set up a food sensitivity from NSAIDs. You can. Yeah, I know, it doesn't seem like it.
It's not right.
No, it isn't right. And they really are detrimental. And I used to play volleyball down at the beach and have a bunch of moms with me, and one of their kids would call the phone and go, I have a headache, Mom, what should I do? Well, just take an Advil. And there's so many other things to do, right? For your kid that you could say. You could say, well, maybe put a hot washcloth on your neck just to get the neck tension down. And just different things that you can give your kids, different tools to think about. Why do I have a headache? What can I do to bring the headache down? But just going for the Advil, we all know, doesn't fix it. So NSAIDs are one thing. I think the next slide kind of talks, no, it doesn't. Okay, so another thing where food sensitivities can come from is antibiotic use. So you have an antibiotic, you got a bladder infection, you go on an antibiotic, and then maybe a couple of years later you have an ear infection, you go on an antibiotic, and that can really mess with your gut biome, right?
It goes on year after year after year. We were having children, all the time, and you were just given those, and you just took them.
Yeah.
And you didn't have any other recourse. The other thing I wanted to mention was about amphetamine. What is it that we take for pain all the time? That you just mentioned.
Yeah, Tylenol and Advil, ibuprofen,
well,
and
I met a lady that didn't know that can really mess up your
gut,
your gut,
and your kidneys, and your liver. Yes.
All those people that are on dialysis, those are some people that have been in pain for years and years and years.
And they were taking NSAIDs.
What I wanted to say was that this one lady, I told her about it, and she says, "Oh, really? something else, along with my pain reliever or whatever it was. And she said, I didn't know that. I said, well, it's on the bottle. If you look on the back of the bottle, well, the thing was, I looked on the back of the bottle of one I had in my cupboard that came from a doctor when I had an operation or something going on. And it was a heavy duty bath. And the doctor took all the warning off of there. And there's just a big label with their
A
name.
lot of times they do that. Yeah, you have to ask for that. You have to ask for the box warnings. Yeah.
Yeah, well, they didn't know to even look for a warning.
Yes, you have to ask for it. So that's another thing, antibiotics. And one of the things I was going to say with your gut as well, I know a lot of you guys know this information, but 50 to 70% of your lymphoid tissue, which is your immune system, is in your gut. So if your gut's unhappy, your immune system's going to be unhappy. And if your immune system's unhappy, you're going to be more susceptible to many different things. So it's really important to keep your gut healthy, antibiotic use down, NSAIDs down. So another thing that can be a cause is glyphosate. Everybody know what glyphosate is? Okay.
Where's the word up there?
It's not up there.
I think
So-
it's on the slide.
It is on the slide?
Oh, yeah. I saw it.
Okay, so glyphosate, I don't know where it is. Glyphosate is what they spray on our food. And like I used to think that glyphosate was just sprayed on, what's it called? Genetically modified foods, right? So the GMOs, like the wheat and the soy and the corn and the canola oils. But I was just reading the other day, it's sprayed on tea.
On what?
Tea.
Oh.
Why is it sprayed on tea? Because it's a desiccant. That's why they spray wheat with it, because it's a desiccant, right? Mariella, I'm sure. What else do you know gets sprayed with glyphosate for a desiccant?
That's why we only buy it.
Or that's why you only buy organic wheat, because it's sprayed right before harvest, right? It's not
ripen it.
right. It's not on. It's not sprayed on the dirt.
No,
It's sprayed on the wheat.
On the grain.
Yeah, which is most of the other ones like corn and soy. It's sprayed on the ground to kill the weeds.
Yeah.
But with it's using desiccant, then it's sprayed right directly on the product that you're. So glyphosate. Wait, did I say it
Why
right?
is it sprayed on
It's
tea?
still being
Sorry?
sold.
Why is it sprayed on tea?
As a desiccant. So what it does is it dries it out so that then they don't have to spray it with a fungicide or something else and treat it afterwards. So it's a quick way to dry it out, and so that it doesn't have to be.
Dry out what they're growing?
Sorry.
It's like a preservative.
What they grow?
After it's
After-
To dry it out?
To dry it out. So that's what they do with the wheat. They spray it so that it's drier, and it does make it. I've heard that it makes the kernels even bigger too. So that's why they spray it right before harvest.
And what are you calling it?
Desiccant.
Desiccant.
Yes, something that draws the moisture out.
Oh, like that.
like a
Saying.
Yes, it draws the moisture out so that it doesn't have to be sprayed with other things after, fungicides and stuff like that. I know. And it's glyphosate is really bad for your gut. I mean, that's one of the things that they're wondering if they've seen with autistic kids, that autistic kids definitely have a more of a gut, what's it called? Leaky gut, and they think that part of that could be from the glyphosate.
Well, I have to say here, I can't be quiet about it. We have a dairy farm and we raised 4 children.
Uh-huh.
And before my husband was even 70, he died of a terrible disease, multiple myeloma. And I couldn't figure it out because he was a wrestler and a jogger and a swimmer. And really, well, we had all the dairy products in the world, which, somebody made that up. And they said that was a food group. But nevertheless, we believe that. And we have this dairy farm. But he, I couldn't figure out how could a healthy man like that just, in 3 months, just be sick and die. And my kids were devastated. But I read 3 years later in Dr. Blaylock's newsletter that farmers get a couple of diseases all the time. Parkinson's and multiple myeloma, a deadly, a rare form of bone marrow cancer. Well, that's what he died of. And I didn't know that for 3 years. I don't know if my kids believe me yet, but I'm positive because we've had a lot of other people, like one man, his son was 32 and he was the glyphosate kid. He was the what's the other common name for that? The weed.
Roundup.
The Roundup kid, he was a Roundup kid. He died when he was 32. And he knows why. I mean, the father knows why. So anyway, it's not just, sort of not good for your gut.
Yeah.
Anyway, I have to say that.
Yeah. So that's just one super happy, it's like if we bought organic food, we would have less Roundup. So I just wanted to hand this out really quick. This is called the Dirty Dozen, and this is the dirtiest top 12 foods.
Strawberries are first.
Yeah, so that if you stay away from those.
I already know.
This is my whole.
Here, I'll give you, and you can pass out. Yeah. What'd you say?
My whole.
And there's the Clean 15.
And there's a Clean 15. You don't really have to worry about those as much being organic, but those first 12 are essential that you buy them organic. So that's just something that you can do. That's such an easy thing to do, is to know what the Dirty Dozen are. Stay away from NSAIDs, and what else did we talk about? I forgot. And antibiotics, and that would really help. Okay, so glyphosate is a chemical substance used as an herbicide to kill weeds and grasses in agriculture, horticulture, and on lawns and gardens. It's applied to wheat before planting and at planting and after planting and before the weed emerges. Also used to pre-harvest treatment to speed up the harvest of grain. Glyphosate is also used on nearly half of corn, soybeans, and I don't believe that. I think it's much greater than that. Right? Oats, fruits, and cotton. Oh, thank you. Yeah. So that's super important. So it alters your gut bacteria. It causes leaky gut syndrome, or that's been being studied. The alteration of the gut bacteria affects the immune system's ability to differentiate between harmful and harmless substances, increasing the likelihood of allergic reactions. Glyphosate suppresses beneficial microbes that help to modulate the immune system. And you guys all know that most of the microbes in our gut are our friends and make B vitamins and make short-chain fatty acids. So we need those gut microbes. Ongoing exposure to glyphosate can cause systematic inflammation, which is associated with the development and worsening of allergic conditions, and it can chemically modify proteins in certain foods, making them to appear more foreign to the immune system. So it's not a friend. It needs to go away.
Lisa,
Yes.
bread in manufacturing before, like Wonder Bread out of that generation, did gluten sensitivities exist before that? Or is it since they've been...
They did,
Not
which,
to this extent.
not to this extent. And what I think it's because we are reacting to the Roundup rather than necessarily the wheat. That's what I think.
And if you go to Europe, you can eat the bread, especially in Ireland.
Yeah,
Well,
because they don't spray
They
it in
don't
Ireland.
spray it, and they haven't modified it. I
So
mean,
they hybridize
they
it.
hybridize the
Yes.
wheat here. So that's a big
what does
mistake.
hybridized mean?
It's kind of like genetically modified, but it's really not. It's just crossbreeding so that you get like a hardier, stronger
Stronger.
wheat.
It has more gluten.
It has more gluten.
It has more gluten.
Oh, our wheat does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I can eat the bread in Europe, especially in brown bread.
I'm sensitive to tomatoes with what I have. And when I went to Italy, I had a pizza a couple times, and I didn't have any issues with it. And my urologist said that they don't spray their crops like they do here.
Right.
So that was interesting.
Well, that is interesting with the tomatoes because you wouldn't. But maybe it's the pesticides that they use on the tomatoes over here. You know?
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Because I keep hearing that, like saying Europe doesn't
Or spray as much.
stuff to make it GMO.
It's been pretty well proven. I'm 75. When I was in college, I was at Children's Hospital at Stanford, which is a very exclusive hospital. And it was the cancer belt. We'd get cancers from the Central Valley.
Oh, I'm
and
sure.
They were all kids. That was the first Ronald McDonald House because we had all these kids from the valley. So the parents would come and they rented a motel. So that was the first time when you had parents in the treatment room sleeping with their kids. And so this was what, 40 years ago.
And here we are, still doing
They
it.
called it the cancer belt. the
Wow.
Central Valley.
Yeah.
You know, the bread basket.
And a lot of asthma and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Besides just cancers, all the other things, autoimmune diseases, I'm sure. Yeah. Okay. So let's just talk about things that you can do. So one of the things that we do in here is we do muscle testing for food allergies. And this is the one thing about food allergies is, so you have an immune system and it's supposed to be balanced, okay? Between the part that, here comes an invader, I'm going to get it, between the part that makes antibodies. If you have an allergy and it's always up and you've got a runny nose or you're bloated or whatever, you're like this all the time. You're unbalanced. So you've got one part of your immune system that's in this kind of a mode. It's like always going, always going, always going. So one of the things that we do is we find out what you're sensitive to, and you can take that part of your immune system, the allergic part of your immune system is going like this, it's like on high, and you can bring it like this. One of the things you can do is obviously stay away from those foods that once they're found. And then the other thing is there's a bunch of nutraceuticals that if you're like this, can bring you like this. And Cassie was going to print off a list of some of those for me. You got them? Awesome.
We were talking about good things, nutritional.
Yes, I'm talking about things like sometimes probiotics can help, sometimes thymus tissue can help, sometimes skull cap can help. I mean, sometimes there's just different things. So here I'm going to pass this out and you guys come. And these are just some ideas of things. There's also antihistamines that you can use, like different kind of antihistamine products. Because what do histamines do? If you guys are allergic, do you guys know some of the reactions? Think about when you guys get a bee sting and your histamines are all up after a bee sting. You get itchy, you get red, you get swollen. That's what histamines do. So when you're in an allergy state, you have too many histamines. So a lot of what this does is that those nutraceuticals will bring down your histamines. So those are just kind of fun things to just kind of know about. So that's what the Th2 pathway is. It's on fire. So what we do is we muscle test people for food sensitivities, and I have pesticide vials, I have wheat vials, I have glyphosate vials, I have all that kind of stuff to check people on. And then we just went over some of the natural supplements. Dietary management, of course, is like staying away from your trigger foods. And then holistic approaches like acupuncture and herbal remedies and nutraceuticals are some of the things that you can do to support your overall wellness. So that's kind of it. Does anybody have any questions about anything?
When you do the muscle testing, is there a standard list of ones that you do?
Yeah, I usually do the big 8. Have you ever been muscle tested for food sensitivities, even though you've come in here a couple times?
Well, I did a biochem with Dr. Gary.
Okay.
But the only thing that he told me was the gluten.
Okay.
But he didn't go over any other ones.
So maybe you didn't have any other ones, because usually there's a way it'll show up. But you said you found tomatoes before.
Well, because I have interstitial cystitis.
Okay.
So I can't have acidic, I can't have spicy, I can't have caffeine. It's like, there's already foods that I can't have.
Okay, so that's not as much of an allergy as it is as an aggravating food. It's like targeting an organ. So usually what I will do, if something I feel like is targeting an organ, I'll put the food on the body and then actually go to that organ and see if that organ is targeted by that food. Because
how do you go to the organ?
I can go to the muscle that relates to that organ. So every single muscle in your body relates to an organ. So you can go to the bladder muscle test it, see if it's strong, put the food on the body, go back to the muscle. If it's weak, then you know that organ is being affected by that food. Yeah. So like when people come in with, asthma, I'll use their deltoid, which is related to their lungs, and then put different foods on their body and see which one's targeting the lungs. I know, it's kind of cool. It's really cool. Yeah, it is amazing. It is magic.
It is magic. It just seems so, it doesn't seem real, because he's doing this and touching, and you're just kind of, is this real? But it's like, yeah.
The best is treating children because they 100% get it. They don't even question it. They go, oh, wow. Okay, I like that.
It's like, why did my arm just go down?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I'm not faking it. I'm going to hold strong. It's like, no, sorry.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's how we'll do target organs. Go to the muscle.
Have you done that before? Had muscle
I've heard that there's Also, they do
pressing, yeah.
reflexology, that there's parts of the feet that go to different organs. but I-
That's not my specialty, that's Dr. Bree's. Yeah, she probably knows a lot more about that than I do. Yeah. Yeah, so any other questions? Otherwise, I'll let Dr. Bree go. Dr. Bree, you have a question?
Do you remember when I was here, did you check for anything? Like, I don't know if I'm allergic to tomatoes or not. I get
I
from Dr.
didn't.
Gundry or somebody that there's lectins on there that might be not good for me.
Right.
And so I don't know for sure. I never have known for sure.
No, I didn't. No, that takes a good 45-minute visit to just kind of go through the foods and the target organs, and it takes a while, you know? Yeah. Okay, Dr. Bree,
Thank you.
you're so welcome.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah.
So are you using this too?
Yes.
Okay, if you need to go forward, you press on the right side of the circle. And I'm gonna eat the rest of my delicious thing that you made. It's so good.
Okay. Position. I like that you're sitting down.
It's so good.
All right. Thank you all for coming. That was such a great talk.
Thank you.
So much good information in that. So, a little bit similar, but different at the same time. So when we think of allergies, right, there's an immune system reaction, and it's either local, in the eyes, in the airways, in the nasal passages, on the skin, or it can be symptoms that are not so obvious, right? So like she was saying, diarrhea, bloating, could be things in the lung, could be pain. It's kind of, allergies are a little bit hard to pin down. I think that's what you're all realizing if you have allergies. So triggers, of course, in the environment. So that's more like the allergic rhinitis, you know, in the face, could be on the skin, in the chest, and then with food, it tends to be more in the digestion, not always. And then, of course, with medication, it can be all over the body in the digestion, it could be on the skin, swelling, either on the face, anywhere on the body. There's just so many symptoms that come up depending on the trigger and what type of allergy we're talking about. So why acupuncture? So acupuncture, many of you maybe haven't received a treatment, some of you have. So it's these thin needles, they're as thick as a hair, they're very, very thin, they're not hollow, and they're inserted into different points on the skin. And that's just one sector of traditional Chinese medicine. So it's one tool in that area of medicine that you can use to treat a symptom or a problem in the body. It's one of many tools that I have in my toolbox. So I can use acupuncture to treat these types of symptoms. That's one tool that I have. So what is it doing? So based off the Eastern perspective, it's all about balance. So when we treat the body, we're focusing on an excess or a deficiency. Is it a substance? Is it an energy? Or is there too much of it? Is there too little of it? What season are we in? How old are you? What is your background? You know, we take all these things into account. And when we're treating, we think in terms of homeostasis and how can we get the body back to neutral, to happy, you know, your relaxed state, all your systems are going. That's generally the goal. So acupuncture can be kind of like a catch-all as far as treatment. It's really just focusing on getting you back to homeostasis and happy and relaxed. From a Western perspective, there's a lot of research now to support acupuncture in Chinese medicine, which is amazing. You know, they've been battling the Western side for a long time, but I think the research is pretty strong. So we're thinking of course, the HPA axis, so the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. And this is with inflammation. So we always talk about inflammation, right? Inflammation's everywhere. We need to decrease inflammation. We need to treat inflammation. So acupuncture is actually a really good way to decrease inflammation. And a lot of allergies are from inflammation, especially the histamine response. Then we're also talking about the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. So maybe you've heard these terms before. Stress, sympathetic, parasympathetic, relaxation, rest, digest. So during treatment, we're focusing on those things as well. And then of course the antihistamine for the allergies. So we go back to the histamine and inflammation. So like everything at this clinic, we really try to find the root of your problem. We're not just trying to put a Band-Aid on it, especially with acupuncture. We love our patients, but we're trying to treat a problem and send you on your way. You know, we hope it goes away. We hope we finish that up and maybe treat you for another problem. And just keep peeling back those layers of onion skin and just kind of figure out what's really going on. And I think with allergies, it's really important because you have to figure out, okay, what is causing this allergy? Is it environmental? Is it food-based? Is it allergen-based? Is it lifestyle-based? Is it from glyphosate, antibiotics? Is it from all those things? So of course we love to use food as medicine in traditional Chinese medicine. So a lot of it is eating seasonal, eating organically, eating locally. If you can, seek out local farmers, you know, meet your farmers, see where that food comes from. We were just talking about this today. You go into a grocery store and you see the vegetable on the shelf, and you don't even think about how many hands, how much time it actually takes to get that vegetable to you. And then you don't really appreciate it as much, and then often enough you overbuy and then you throw it away. So I think it's really important just getting back in touch with where your food comes from and having like a really positive relationship with food in general. Focusing on things that are quicker to perish, so not so much shelf-stable goods. The quicker it is to go bad, the better it is for you, with the exception of fermented foods. That's going to be at the end. Fermented foods are amazing. But you know, like an apple, lettuce, things that are on the shelf that are going to go bad in maybe a couple days, much better than a can or something that's been on the shelf for 5 years or who knows when, that has a bunch of salt. Yeah, just the nutritional value is lost in that area. So a few formulas for today. I kind of included allergy attacks. So there's a formula that really focuses on immunity. So in Chinese medicine, prevention is key as well. So building up your immunity, making sure your immune system is strong so that you're not as sensitive to these allergies. So adaptogens are really popular and really, really important to incorporate into your lifestyle if you haven't looked into those at all. It's a way to...
How would poison ivy and poison oak come into this situation? Would that be considered an allergy?
I think, yeah, it's an allergic reaction on the skin from an environmental toxin or that nature.
Because I had the situation with mangoes that they have a toxin in there, and I had the same reaction as I would have with poison ivy or poison oak, where my eyes swelled up. I think they've treated it now, but I didn't realize it at the time. I was a Peace Corps volunteer in Panama as a campesino, and they used to carry around a knife, and whenever I saw a mango tree, I'd grab a mango and then spice it up. And I had these allergies, and I couldn't figure out what it was. And I went to Gorgas Hospital, and they said, you can get that from 300 different plants down here. And I finally realized that it was just my love of mangoes that was causing it. And when I get back to the States, you know, I read about it, and some people react to it just like they react to poison oak or poison ivy.
Wow.
So, but I think they've treated it so they got some of the acidity out of the mangoes. But I love mangoes, and you know, I paid the price.
I have to ask, have you had a mango since then?
You know, I've eaten mangoes, you know, since then, but you know, not like I did like every day down there.
Okay, yeah, and also sometimes trees. I don't know about mangoes, but sometimes the tree can cause an allergic reaction too. Like when you said you picked it straight from the tree. I know like certain stone fruit or certain trees can emit a toxin similar to poison ivy. So just, yeah, that's really interesting. Mangoes though. I have heard they're more allergic food in general. I'm not sure entirely why, but I have heard mango. Yeah.
And cashews are in that same family.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's interesting.
it is. When I was juicing, one of the little juicing books said just, you know, you can peel the apples or not, but don't put the seeds in there, they're poison. I thought, I never do that my whole life. Not that I ate the seeds, but I might have accidentally. I don't know. It was but anyway. And then somebody said that that I should peel my apples, and I thought, well, of course not. That's where everything is, good stuff. But you know, I ate an apple with a peel, my stomach hurt. I peel them now, and my stomach doesn't hurt. It's like an amazing thing. So there could be something to it. What I think lectins was the word I heard. And
Also more of the toxins too if they're sprayed. So it's on the skin.
Yeah,
They're one of the dirty dozen.
about the dirty dozen, I buy organic and I buy non-organic because I soak everything in a very dilute solution of hydrogen peroxide.
Okay. To get
Just
all
like
that
at
off.
3%, and I just throw everything in the sink, and I purchase them as cheap as I can. So I have a lot of them that are non-organic. You know, they're just regular. But I soak them for half an hour, and then berries and everything.
And
So
it gets that off.
everything that I purchase, I do the same. So I feel better.
Yeah, I was just actually seeing today a peel. It's a spray that they put on foods to preserve it. And Aldi's now has labels on their shelves that say they use it.
Oh, they do. Well,
It's
at least they tell
petroleum
you.
based or beeswax, or there's like 4 other
So they're
types.
telling us that this is something really bad. They're letting us know.
Essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, some of the coatings are bad, some of them are not, but it doesn't say which one is what you're buying. And I'm like, okay, this is, at least they're telling us, but
Yeah, that's
terrible. Yeah, that's why you should know your farmer. Even
The
more of a reason why
The
to know your
reason probably
farmer.
has to do with money.
Yeah.
On
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
food
they gotta have it
preservation.
sit there. They don't mind if you don't know.
Yeah.
It's 100 years old or.
Well, it'll last, 60
60
days or something versus like 2 weeks. Another one is for congestion and sneezing and itchy eyes. I can also write down these formulas. I didn't prepare any paperwork for today. Or you can meet with me for an herbal consult, and I'd be happy to provide some dietary formulas as well, Chinese medicine based, and they're all herb based. Some food. So some great foods for inflammation, ginger and turmeric. If you haven't used those as much, those are great anti-inflammatory foods, great for the gut to support
Warming spices.
reducing the histamine reaction and increasing your immune response, or decreasing immune response, supporting the immune system in general. And then of course bee pollen, which I actually put in that squash and pumpkin dish. Honey and pollen in general are a great way to build resistance against allergies, and especially if you know a local beekeeper, and I do. I'm very lucky, she's sitting right there. And it's antimicrobial, antifungal, and then warming spices. So this is actually a really interesting piece about capsaicin. I was researching this before I came here.
Is that word warming?
Yeah, warming spices, like ginger, cayenne, pepper, clove, cinnamon, fennel, Szechuan, so another pepper, it's from Asia, cumin. So capsaicin, which is like the really intense spice, that's the component that is in a lot of peppers. So it can irritate a mucous membrane, so in excess it can be negative. But short term or in lower doses, it softens the obstructions in the passages and it can relieve congestion. And it opens your airway, so it can actually be beneficial for the symptoms that you may be having. Warming spices in general are really good on the digestion because in Chinese medicine, digestion is a huge piece, and Everything has to be easily digested, and your stomach and your spleen really like warm. So cold things are really hard to digest, according to Chinese medicine. And if you are keeping your gut happy, it will be warm. And avoiding ice things, cold things, frozen things, raw things. Seasonally, of course, so like during the height of summer, if it's super hot outside, yeah, go ahead, drink that smoothie, eat that salad. In moderation, right? Not every meal, every day, all the time. But now as we're shifting into fall, it's really important to cook our food, more soups, at minimum room temperature, not so much cold or frozen. Okay, so seasonally, so we're going into fall, and the organ associated with the fall, yeah?
Before you move further on
Yeah.
frozen fruits,
Yeah.
my daughter freezes grapes for the kids to snack on, and that was also mentioned in another group that I'm in as a snack. And I was
Yeah.
talking to you earlier about
Yeah.
eating the frozen mangoes.
Yeah.
So freezing the grapes is also a bad thing to be doing.
I'd say in excess. Everything in moderation. Like if you're eating frozen
Sugar.
grapes like
Just
twice,
sugar.
every single day, keeping amounts, maybe not the best for digestion, but they're also little guys, so digestion. Maybe it's no problem yet. Sorry, I'm losing my voice as we continue. Let me get a little sip of water.
I'll get you a glass of water.
I have my bottle right here.
Oh, you have a water?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
This one sounds like
last
Oh no. Yeah, much better though.
Okay, good.
Okay, so as we're moving into fall, we want to do more cooked foods, things like squashes and pumpkins, all the seasonal stuff that's coming out. Pears are really good for the lungs, coughing, walnuts, almonds, chickpeas, or nuts. And then of course, as we move into spring, it would be more leafy stuff for the liver, green stuff for the liver, sour foods for the liver.
Did you say corn nuts? I thought it was sour. Those little things from the package.
It's sour.
And then,
It's my hearing.
yeah, it's okay.
It's faulty.
And then generally spleen support, like I was saying earlier, mildly sweet things, so things that are easy for the spleen to digest and stomach to digest, thus strengthening it. And fermented sourdough, if you must oblige. And milk products, not in excess, so that it's actually harder for your body to digest as well. And a lot of people have milk allergies that they're not aware of that can be contributing to those symptoms. But goat's milk tends to be lower on that scale for people. They're able to digest it more. And then as well as duck eggs if you're not able to digest chicken eggs. So just kind of doing a switch from to a different animal.
The goat's milk is lactose intolerant.
Maybe not full lactose intolerant. Not fully lactose. Because it still has lactose in there.
Yeah.
It's just a little bit different and less than cow. Yeah, but I wouldn't say full lactose people can tolerate goat's milk. And then, fermented foods. So talking about sourdough. So sourdough in general has a lot of nutrients and antioxidants. And it's a lot easier for the body to digest than regular bread, which is amazing. So it has these prebiotics that are in there, which essentially acts as fiber. And that feeds the good bacteria in our gut. So we talked about bacteria in the gut. And feeding the good bacteria so that the colonies and the diversity that's in there can survive and thrive and push out the bad ones.
Is that in generally all sourdoughs?
No, that's a great question. Yeah, so there's a lot of really bad sourdough bread out there. So there's the laws, I should say, or the guidelines for sourdough is nil to none. You can be considered sourdough and just put like vinegar in your bread to have a sour flavor, but it's not actually sourdough, which means, so sourdough comes from a live starter, so something that's alive that you feed and that's been fermented, and over time has been built up, so it's alive and there's colonies in there and good stuff in there. But yeah, that stuff you buy in the store, it lacks all of that. It pretty much hasn't been fermented, and they just use a dry yeast or an active yeast, and then they make a bread in an hour or two. Whereas like a real sourdough takes 3 days to bake, and it takes weeks, if not months, to build up the initial starter to even get to the point of baking the
So
bread.
what about the fish house?
Say again?
The fish house sourdough bread.
I don't know.
It's really good.
Is
I don't
it?
know.
You may have to ask them what's in their bread.
Yeah, it's just,
Where can you get
any fish, well, our fish house.
Yeah.
sourdough?
So typically bakeries, like real bakeries, you can ask them. Often enough, a real bakery will sell you their starter even. So you can ask questions about where your bread comes from and say, hey, is this real sourdough? How old is your starter? Where does this actually come from? What kind of flour do you use? Where is your flour from? Just asking more questions, I think, is a great way to get involved with your diet and your food and where food comes from. And then, of course, fermented foods, which, same thing, they're more prebiotics, and it's amazing for the gut. So we're feeding that beneficial bacteria that can support our digestion, thus, pushing out those histamine reactions and the inflammation, and it's really helping everything work better and over time.
Bluebird Canyon Farms on Tuesdays, and the farm stand sells very fermented, amazing sourdough.
On Tuesdays, is that?
You're eating it.
I know, it's wonderful.
Bluebird,
I was
on
hoping
Bluebird
I'll get-
Canyon Drive on Tuesdays. At Bluebird Canyon Farms. That's
How far do you have to go
sourdough,
up?
not that far.
Bluebird.
Bluebird.
Bluebird Canyon,
Bluebird Canyon.
Tuesday all day?
I know Rye has a sourdough too. There's a few bakeries that do a sourdough. So you just have to seek it out in your area. I'm not sure where you live, but
I asked them at the ride,
Mhm.
but I think rye showed up on one of the lists that a food I should avoid, so I
Okay.
didn't try it.
Okay.
And I have bought like Trader Joe's sourdough,
Yeah.
but I still have a little, I have it in the freezer, because I switched over to gluten-free.
Well, if you're gonna get it from Trader Joe's, buy the bread variety. It's called bread.
B-R-E-D?
Bread, B-R-E-A-D.
Okay, bread,
Yeah,
right.
because otherwise it's not.
They have a gluten-free bakery out on Cabot Road. That stuff is good, but it is hard as a rock. Just hard as a rock.
Oh no.
Comes in a mound like this and it's sliced for you, and then you have to toast it 3 times to get it to, soften a little. It's really good once you get through all that. But, and it's
That's not.
totally gluten-free, but it's just very dense.
That's
And,
always the problem.
yeah.
They're gluten-free. It's hard to find quality stuff that's gluten-free. It's a challenge. I mean, it's hard to bake gluten-free.
The Canyon one, I like that gluten-free bread.
Canyon?
It's good.
Canyon Bakery.
Canyon Bakery.
Canyon Bakery, yeah.
It's the
Okay,
one.
so there's places out there.
Yeah, we even
Yeah.
find that at Trader Joe's, probably even
Oh,
on Mother's. Yeah, Mother's.
I think I bought that at Pavilion.
Yes, a lot of places have that. Yeah.
So outside of sourdough, I would say fermented foods would be a great thing to incorporate into your diet if you aren't already, to support your gut bacteria, thus
Like pickles?
supporting your immunity. Yeah. Yep, sauerkraut, pickles, anything really pickled. It will
Like
usually
kimchi
say
and stuff like
vegetables, yeah, kimchi, and that has a little capsaicin in there, so you get both with that. I think that's pretty much it for me. If anyone has any questions.
That's a good deal.
Cool.
So you know what's fun too with meat allergies is to test people with wheat and then sourdough, because some people can actually.
Okay, that would be cool.
Yes, because some people can have sourdough especially if it's organic and it's sourdough. So I do that a lot of times if people show a wheat sensitivity. I'll have them bring in the bread variety that's wheat, organic wheat, sourdough organic wheat and see what they can eat. And there's definitely sometimes there's a difference. Some people
Okay, you
can.
should put some of our flour in your vial.
You should. Let's do that. Let's do that. That would be amazing.
I love that.
Because I definitely see differences between just conventional wheat and non-organic versus organic. Sometimes, like I said, it's the sensitivity comes from the pesticides, and the body starts to relate wheat with glyphosate, and then it doesn't want the wheat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when it was milled, how old it is.
Yeah.
Like you said, where it comes from.
Yeah.
U.S.
Yeah.
versus Europe.
100%.
Question?
I just when you were talking about the warm spices, I was cook on the California and we had a lot of seasick people.
Oh yeah.
So there's no ginger in ginger ale. Just speaking of ginger. So I would make an infusion of ginger, fresh ginger,
Oh, awesome.
and then with bubbly water.
Smart.
And even ginger snaps, even the cookies, it actually really works.
Yeah,
It
for
really,
sure.
really works.
Because
And
it's
then
probably ginger.
and then something made out of ginger liqueur, and that really worked.
What do you
Try
what do you mean by that really work? I'm sorry, Mom.
For nausea, for seasickness.
Well,
Oh,
but
for
also-
C, oh,
but it
I
had
heard the
no-
word C, but I didn't
It was,
guess what
it was,
Oh, okay.
it was a liqueur, which meant it had alcohol, so.
Oh.
That was the,
Put them out too.
but ginger's an amazing, I learned a lot on that.
Yeah, ginger
That's
is
great.
great.
And most of the stuff that you discussed is like pure state, fresh.
Yeah, good
Vegetables.
question.
What
So all forms, pills, tinctures, teas, fresh in food, dried in food, really any form is good. Especially like ginger, turmeric, they sell those in all forms on the shelf in the store.
So in powder form is just as good.
I would say. I mean, I'm always biased to like fresh and food based, just because I think there's something to be said about like eating it and absorbing it and how it's fresh, versus like a product on the shelf. You don't know how long that product's been there, or even a spice, because unfortunately spices don't stay long for that long on the shelf, so you don't know again how long it's been on the shelf. If the oils in there, medicinal properties of there, how long have they really been in that container? I'm just biased to fresh.
What's your opinion on taking probiotics?
Yeah, I think they're great. I think there's a lot of bad ones out there, and they're really expensive. I don't know a specific brand off the top of my head because I don't prescribe them that often. But I think doing your research and getting it from a trusted source or from someone like Dr. Lisa, who maybe knows a really good brand, I wouldn't just get any old brand. Because yeah, like I said, they're expensive and you're just wasting your money. Yeah, there's a lot of newer ones on the market, which is really amazing, and if they have research to back them, then that's great too. Yeah, and they have a short shelf life as well, and that's why they're in the fridge section.
Exactly.
Yeah, they have a very short shelf life, which they should, because if they're alive,
It's supposed to be a lot.
yeah.
It makes me laugh whenever I read the boxes and it'll say 1 million active.
Yeah.
And who counted them? I couldn't figure that out.